A very, very warm welcome to everybody who is tuning into our event this year. The most unusual of years, I think you can all agree. I hope that you will be able to enjoy the virtual format instead of coming together as we might normally at Warwick. Certainly our day today promises to be a fascinating one as we dive into some of the challenges and opportunities facing manufacturing and the innovation framework here within the UK. You know, I think in the early part of this year, we saw just how important manufacturing is to the UK's success as a nation. It's certainly core to our resilience. I think many of the discussions that we will have this morning and through the hot topic sessions that will follow it will be key to ensuring that resilience and the high performance of UK manufacturing. So a very, very warm welcome to everyone who is joining us. But for now, I am very, very delighted to welcome our hosts for this event and to introduce the wonderful Professor Sam Turner, the Chief Technology Officer at the High Value Manufacturing Catapult, and the wonderful Tim Minshall, Head of the Institute for Manufacturing at Cambridge. And Tim, let me pass over to you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. So I'm just going to say a few words before handing over to Sam. So I'm going to give a tiny bit of context, and then Sam talk about how we're going to take things forward for the rest of today and the following workshops. So if I could just have the next slide, please. So two very key points here. One is the UK Manufacturing Forum is a great community. Everybody here on this, at this event, is a member of that forum. The forum is even broader than that. It is a representation of the manufacturing innovation community across the UK. And this builds on something that was set up many years ago by someone that many of you will know, Mike Gregory, who wanted to make sure that the manufacturing academic community was connected with senior decision makers in industry and government to most effectively ensure that we were driving forward UK manufacturing. 4 years ago, thanks to the support of the High Value Manufacturing Catapult, we've made it into something slightly different, particularly focused on manufacturing innovation. So it's been needed for many years. It is particularly needed in the context of manufacturing innovation, and it's particularly needed, of course, now in the context of COVID, Brexit, net zero, all of those things. But one message I want to come to in this, start with and end with in this very short intro, is that the manufacturing community is about building competitive advantage for the UK, sustained competitive advantage. It's not just about discussing how we respond to crises and deal with and coping with things. It's about capturing opportunities. So if I could have the next slide, please. So, oh, that's the one. So this looks a little complicated, but I'm just trying to make a point here that what the forum has managed to do, thanks to the support of the whole manufacturing community, is to build on, thanks to this very wide base of support across manufacturing in the UK, great activities that have been happening. We have national strategies, we have regional strategies for industrial activities, we have all the sector strategies, we have all the road mapping activities, we have all the sector strategies and sector maps as well. And this is fantastic that this level of integration is happening. But there's a risk that if you have lots of little things happening and lots of big things happening and lots of useful activities happening, if they're not connected, we don't have a single view of what manufacturing's challenges are and the opportunities that arise from that are as well. And hence we're not able to really sensibly compare ourselves to other rapidly transforming economies to make sure that we're doing the things that really do add, create competitive advantage for the UK. So this whole activity of bringing together a community to join the dots up is really, really important. And it needs to be beyond the academic community, clearly, beyond just those directly involved in policy and those who are running manufacturing organisations, but all these other organisations as well have continue to play a key part in this. But, a big but here, if you can just give me the next slide, please, the final one. There has been perhaps a slight risk that we over-focus on the technology. Clearly, having world-beating technologies is critical for manufacturing innovation. But if we over-focus on the technology, the risk is there is a risk, I guess, that the UK becomes kind of a really great place for others to develop their manufacturing technologies that can be exploited elsewhere. We need to really focus on making sure that we understand how we work with our international partners to do the right things for everybody. And there's this really nice book written by David Sainsbury, which makes this point about the role of manufacturing in driving sustainable competitive advantage. And a key bit is technology vital. And it's not just the technologies coming out from universities, the generic ones, it's the way in which those technologies are developed by the private sector. And it's the critical role of the technologies around metrology and standards and all of these things that need to be there to allow new processes to lead to new products. But, and many of us have been banging on about this for years, without an integration with the skills and workforce development activities, those technologies have a risk of going nowhere. And then finally, there is this issue of understanding our existing supply chains, our existing industry base, so that when these opportunities come along and we're seeing what we should be doing, perhaps areas we should be shifting out of, we understand the resources we've got right across the manufacturing ecosystem. And that's where the Manufacturing Forum comes in. It can play, all of us, have to play a critical role in making sure that we do have this joined up view, this three-legged stool of manufacturing, which I think I should credit to Sam and Sam Turner and Paul Shakespeare and others. It's a great analogy. These three things have to happen together. And that's where the Manufacturing Forum comes in, to join these dots up, to make us understand that that's how we're going to create sustainable competitive advantage for the UK. And now, if I may, I'm going to hand over to Sam to talk us through how the forum is going to do that and what we're going to be doing today and in the following workshops. Thank you. Over to Sam.
Thank you, Tim. A great scene setting. So I'll talk you through briefly the objectives for the day and how we're changing things for the UK Manufacturing Forum in 2020. Our objectives then, first of all, is really for us to gain, as we often do, gain an understanding of the national manufacturing landscape and challenges and how we can address and meet them as the UK Manufacturing Forum community. So we've got some great speakers lined up to help do that scene setting this morning. We have an output from last year's workshops, looking at how do we improve collaboration, effective and impactful collaboration between universities and RTOs. And out of that, we've got a report of recommendations on the funding landscape, which we'll be presenting on later from Mike Hinton and Alice. And also, we've got a number of hot topic workshops we're planning to run in the new year. So this format of a short form plenary, obviously in the virtual sense, in the digital format, is going to be followed on by a number of workshops in January and February, which will hopefully lead to a number of impactful outputs as well. So next slide, please. So from last year's outputs, we've got the Research and Innovation Landscape Report. You're going to see more on that later. This has been socialised with UKRI, and it's going to be a joint HVMC UKRI presentation on this. And we're really keen, after 4 years of this community coming together, that we start to have more of these outputs and impacts as a group. So the workshops we'll be running in January and February will be looking at a number of hot topics and hopefully producing outputs related to roadmaps, white papers, creating new networks and project opportunities. And these are hot topics that we see as being opportune right now, but also of high importance and opportunity to influence potential funding or strategies. And there will be a report coming out in April that will collate all these outputs together. So next slide, please. We have talked about technology road mapping at some of them. In fact, had workshops on these at some of our past UKMF sessions. So this is still an important part of the collective efforts. We're not going to focus on this today, but just as an update, with HVMC have been facilitating 2 sector level roadmaps initially on food and drink and aerospace, with aerospace working with the Aerospace Technology Institutes. So the aerospace roadmaps have been reviewed with an ATI strategy advisory group cross sector last week. They're going to be published in early January. So the sector level roadmaps are almost complete for aerospace. Food and drink will be coming hot on its heels. And this is really establishing what the industry needs are. So what's the manufacturing capability required by the aerospace industry to meet the future needs of the sector? And then we have another layer of roadmaps we're developing, which are the technology layer roadmaps, which would say, well, how do we as a manufacturing technology community deliver the digital, the advanced additive manufacturing, metrology, composites, design? There are pilot ones. There'll be a greater number of themes that meet and deliver the capability to industry that means the UK is the place to build aerospace capability in the future. The same food and drink, and in future years, or next year, we'll be looking at other sectors as well, such as automotive, elements of the energy sector. And we'll be developing technology level roadmaps for many of the branches of the technology tree, which we've seen before at this UK Manufacturing Forum. So the roadmaps will be a mixture of technology push and sector pull. We are making good progress. We'll be inviting you, I think you've had a chance already to indicate your interests on registration as to which of the technology themes you'd like to be involved with. So we'd like to develop the technology layer roadmaps offline with members of this community early in the new year. Next slide, please. So running into the agenda then, how we're meeting these objectives. Next up, we've got Dick Elsey, who's going to say a bit of a state of the nation. Been quite a year, and I've been interested to see Dick's reflections and challenge to us all. Then we have Phil Slarks from Bayes, going to take us through the Innovation and R&D roadmap. Stuart Miller, the CTO of Innovate UK, looking at a vision for an outcome-driven innovation system. And then Richard Jones from the University of Manchester, talking about innovation R&D and the levelling up agenda. So there are great speakers this morning to stimulate some thoughts and discussions. Then we have a break on the next slide. We'll then take it into a panel session where there's a chance for some of those questions that Rosa talked about to be tabled to Dick, Stuart, and Tim. And then we're going to have a look at the outputs from last year's activity. So with Alice Porter and Mike Hinton, this is the recommendations on the academic funding landscape. Lydia then is going to take us through the UK landscape opportunities with a particular lens on the EPSRC manufacturing portfolio. And then Tim and I will close the session just taking you through the hot topics we're planning to run in January, a bit more around those, the detail of them and how you can get involved. And we'll be closing for 12:30. So with that, well, I'll pass you back to Rosa, and next up we'll hear from our CEO, Dick Elsey.